He begins to circle me, talking in a low, smug monologue. You like to hold out for as long as you can, against the pain inflicted on you. You see it as bravery. You see it as courage. Stupidity, some might call it. You hold out for as long as you can, until you can take no more, and you have to give in to my desire. I shiver. Your irritating ideology and your insufferable idea of bravery made me consider that what might be enough to push you into enacting some willing obedience, and I started to wonder, how long would you be able to hold out if it was someone you loved was suffering in exchange for your silence? My heart stops beating for a moment as he confirms my fears. What am I going to do? He comes to a stop in front of me, almost touching me, but not quite. Perhaps when you discover that bravery is meaningless, you might finally realize that the entire ideology you built your life around is a lie. He reaches out and runs his thumb down my cheek. Or perhaps you can prove me wrong. If you are truly brave, then you will be able to watch your friends suffer with a ridiculous notion of what's right. It's a fascinating predicament for you, isn't it? I confess, I shall be most interested to see how it will play out. As his thumb rests on my chin, I feel my mouth start to work, coming out with words that I know I shouldn't be saying. You say that you understand me, I say quietly. Well, I wish I could say the same about you. I wish I could comprehend how you could do something like this. How would you feel if someone tortured your wife in front of you to get you to give information that you wanted to protect with your life? What would you do if someone were to torture Draco to get to you? A short, sharp slap. I gasped. I wasn't expecting that. His features are harsh now. Don't speak of my wife. His voice is quietly threatening, warning me not to push any further. No, my son. They do not concern you. Oh no? I mustn't mention your family. That would make everything too personal, wouldn't it? And what do you mean by that? His voice is running through like ice. I don't know why, but I want to push it further. I want him to realize that I know him for what he is. Whenever things get too personal, you automatically get violent with me before I can go any further. Whenever I mention your family, or when I say your name, or when I try to get through to any trace of humanity you might have, you cut things off before I can delve any deeper. Really, he says, his face giving nothing away. Well, seeing as you seem so determined to psychoanalyze me, perhaps you might tell me more. He's goading me. He's luring me into going further. Well, that's an excuse he wants. Then it's an excuse he'll get. Well, if it's an excuse he wants, then it's an excuse he'll get. If you establish a personal bond with someone, you won't be able to do your duty properly, because you'll be emotionally involved. That's why you always look distant when you torture me. It's because you're not. It's not because you're an emotionless monster. He smirks at that. And how do you know that I'm not an emotionless monster? You don't even know me. I'm starting to. I fire back. And I know that you're a human being just like I am. although you may not act like it. And I've come to the only conclusion left. That you look distant when you torture me because you're determined that you won't become emotionally involved. So, looks almost amused. Almost. Pray, continue. I take a deep breath to steel my nerves. You might as well give up on that idea. Because you've got a bond with me now, whether you like it or not. You might lash out at me and curse me without cause, but those aren't the actions of an indifferent person. He's really struggling to keep calm now. You can see it in his face, almost pulsing with anger as he battles to keep calm and expressionless. How far will he go to prove me wrong on this matter? But what I want to know is, why do you hate me? I'm deliberately provoking him now. Pushing him, digging deeper. I haven't ever done anything to you. We've barely spoken to each other before I came here. Alright, so I don't get on with your son, but apart from that, you have no reason to dislike me. I was at the ministry that night, last year. But if you'd bother asking me, you know that I really didn't want to be there. You can't deny it wasn't my fault you were captured. I don't care about you being at the ministry, he snaps, his temper finally beginning to conquer him. You were unconscious for most of the battle. If I'm completely honest, I barely noticed your presence. But I certainly don't care about your pretty, petty arguments with my son. Schoolyard fights are beneath my concern. Then why? I know the answer already, of course I do. But I want to push this as far as I can. As hard as I can. Why do you hate me? I've told you time and time again. How many more times do I have to tell you? His face is pale with rage. You shouldn't be in our world. You and your kind are nothing more than throwbacks. And yet you move into my world, polluting it, taking it over and making it your own. Now I really am curious. Is that what it is? I ask quietly. Is that what it all boils down to? Fear? His eyes narrow on me. What? You heard me, I snap at him. Does all of your hate, all of your prejudice just boil down to a fear of losing your position in society? Are you just worried that the Muggle-born will take it away from you? Why on earth would that be my reason for hating you? His voice is raised, and his face has lost all of its color. How would I be worried about the possibility of you taking my position away from me? Look at yourself, a plain, untrained teenage mudblood with no money, no connections worth knowing, with only a bit of basic intelligence to brag of. How could you possibly take anything away from me? You know just how much I am worth. Are you aware of the power I yield in the circles I mix in? You're right, I carry on, trying to ignore the fact that my head is pounding so badly that I feel I'm going to faint. I could never take your position away from you, because you haven't had to work for what you have. Normal people have to work hard for money and privilege and position, but all you've ever had to do was take the trouble to be born. The look of absolute and pure loathing on his face actually terrifies me, and I shut myself up before I can go any further. Would that you never have been. Would that you never had been. I don't get that quote. Would that you never had been? He says without moving his lips. Does anyone else not understand what he means? I don't get that quote. I don't understand what he's saying. Would that you never had been? Whatever. He says without moving his lips. He flicks his wand at me and nails. Nails. That's what it is. Scraping down my face, arms, chest, leg, knees. Got to stop. Got to make it stop. Claws scratching. Claws in my face making stop, please. Knives driven into my stomach, twisting, rubbed frantically at my arms. Oh. It disappears. I open my eyes, dropping my arms so that I can look at them. They're covered with strips of red. Stripes left not by the curse, I'm sure of it, but by my own fingernails. I shudder involuntarily. When will you ever learn your place? I look up at him to see his face full of loathing. It almost makes me wince. You arrogant, pathetic little girl! Will you ever learn? The door bangs open. My heart throbs in my throat as Dolohov and Bellatrix drag Ron into the room. He's conscious this time, though his face is so white it's almost green, and he's grimacing in pain. You two took your time. Lucius doesn't bother to disguise his irritation in his voice. Well, he did insist upon putting up a fight, Bellatrix says, as she and Dolohov throw Ron to the ground. He falls on his side, grunting in pain. Bellatrix throws him a contemptuous sneer as she goes to lock the cell door. It took us some time to subdue him. Ron gasps weakly, gripping his stomach and grimacing in pain. My heart splits itself in two. What have you done to him? I take rapid steps towards Ron. You bastards, what have you done? An invisible pair of hooks wrench me from under my arms, and I'm thrown back, and shitfuck, ow! I'm slammed into a wall. I'm sorry. It's not a funny thing to say. Shitfuck, ow is like amazing. That's an amazing catchphrase. She says it a couple of times. It's amazing every single time. My whole body screams out in pain, and fireworks burst beneath my eyelids. But I don't fall back forwards. I stay where I am, some invisible bond pinning me to the wall. You will stay there, mudblood. He mutters quietly as Bellatrix laughs at me from the other side of the room. I am heartily sick of your revolting displays of affection for the boy. You were here for one thing, and one thing only, is that clear? Tears flip out of my eyes as the cruelty of it. Please, no. He cuts the plea in half, killing it dead. I have decided that you shall not offer your friend any comfort or any help. You wouldn't want to make the situation too personal, would we? For a moment, hatred takes hold of me so violently that I can't speak. I just shake against the wall as I stare long and hard into this cold, smug, evil face. I have never hated anyone as much as I hate Lucius Malfoy right now. So, what's the first step today? Dolohov asks, eagerness lighting up his twisted face as he sets up the levitating quill and parchment in the corner of the room. He brushes his greasy hair back, and I can't help but notice the vivid bruise that circles his left eye. Ron must have put up a better fight than I did.